In today's world, where fear, slavery, suffering, ignorance, and oblivion have reached its peak, knowing, not believing, but knowing the true self is of utmost importance. Not knowing who we really are is the root cause of all our problems, both personal and collective, as all our problems are ego-based, meaning they consist of suppressed thoughts and emotions we are identified with. Throughout our lives and during evolution, we have identified with various ideas: body, consciousness, being, nationality, race, gender, profession, this kind of person, that kind of person. And the total sum of these identities makes what we call the ego. Consciousness is centered in the depths of the ego, in its unstable and ever-changing structure. And sooner or later, consciousness will begin to wonder, who am I? Out of all these identities that I go through all the time, which one am I really? The fundamental question of every human being is, who am I? According to Meher Baba, one of the most reputable mystics of the 20th century, who am I was the first word uttered by God. The only way to gain a sense of self was to step out of oneness and to create the first polarity by splitting itself into the initial yin and yang, the I and non-I. And this duality was and still is false in nature, as everything is one. But the separation of the self into I and non-I had an evolutionary function to enable consciousness to gain experience and to evolve through impressions. These impressions Meher Baba calls sanskaras. The human being does not remember its divine nature, as it was fully unconscious when the ego did not exist. And now the human being cannot experience its real nature since it is buried with impressions about itself and existence. Now, when the actual human focuses awareness onto self, in order to experience the self, some of the sanskaras come up. And he or she experiences the sanskaras, these impressions about the self, instead of the real self. And this is why Meher Baba believes the human being is only aware of the creation, of the illusion, and not of the real self. Since consciousness does not have any matter, energy, space, and time, in order for a focused consciousness to experience itself, sanskaras, consisting of matter, energy, space, and time, have to be removed from its path. If we want to experience the spaciousness of the room, we have to remove all its furniture. It would be very easy to know the real self and to be in direct experience of truth all the time if we didn't have our mind. And the best definition of mind is this: the mind is the totality of all our misunderstood experiences, our traumas, negative experiences, unfinished cycles, uncommunicated intentions, and unfulfilled desires. As soon as we want to experience something, instead of direct experience of that something, we get the contents of our mind reactivated. What is enlightenment or direct experience of truth? It is pure consciousness, or what we really are, under the layers of unconscious identities and suppressed thoughts and emotions. The true nature of the human being is no different from the true nature of everything else. And this is why enlightenment is often referred to as oneness. We've been taught that the road to enlightenment is long and difficult and requires great effort and a lot of time. And until now, that was true. You know, in ancient times, enlightenment demanded the devotion of the whole life of a human being, severing connections with family, with everyday living, rejecting goals and ambitions. And the best example is Buddha. He achieved enlightenment after 8 years of persistent meditation. In traditional mystical school, they didn't pay attention to the time needed to attain gnosis or enlightenment because they considered time as illusion anyway. But for us, people of the 21st century, the century loaded with information, standards, ideals, the time to attain anything, even enlightenment, is important. The system that enables us to achieve enlightenment in the shortest amount of time I've seen, heard, and experienced is called Satori Protocol, made by one of my long-term teachers, Vladimir Stojakovic. Satori is the latest method of emotional release systems I teach that leads people into the non-dual enlightenment state faster than any other method that has come before, with most of my clients entering the enlightenment state in between 5 and 30 minutes. This is not some new age bullshit, as many would like to think, because they rather debate on their impressions of methods based on their conditioned opinions and other actual experiences of it. You know, if we are to reach certainty and through autonomy of realization, we need to be willing to be heretics and not believing anything that we do not know from our own personal experiences, you know, beyond stories, beyond hearsay, and even beyond the mind. This time it exists and it is available for you to experience it for yourself. This is one of the best methods of spiritual development that exists in the world. And my personal experiences and also experiences with my clients have been amazing. You know, I was able to locate the ego in my physical body and also recognize some interesting energetic structures and their goals. So I invite you to experience it for yourself, because who knows where it might take you. The difference between Satori and one of his predecessors, the famous Gnostic Intensive, is that Satori allows self-application, the experience of enlightenment without the guidance of another person. Also, work on emotional problems and a direct experience of truth is integrated. So Satori is the first system that integrates the release of emotional problems and enlightenment in the same process. So we begin the process from an emotional problem and end it with direct experience of truth, achieving two benefits at the same time: the release of emotional problems and enlightenment. Direct experience of truth can be temporary or permanent. The permanent one is the final goal of spiritual development. It has different names in different spiritual disciplines: Satori, Samadhi, Moksha, Tao, Nirvana. Satori Protocol enables us to experience a temporary direct experience of truth every day, a few times per day if that's what you want, and thereby accelerating our evolution and our journey towards the permanent enlightenment. So what is the benefit of this? You will realize yourself as the rest, as a huge universe. And not by your cognitive understanding and borrowed knowledge, but your own personal experience. You will become whole by assimilating anything and everything into your limitless self. That state is not permanent, but it shows what is waiting for you in the not so far off future. You know, to touch a little reality is still to touch a reality. And when you know what home is, your journey becomes worthwhile. After discovering the direct answer to the eternal question, who am I? A person starts to advance much quicker in all and every spiritual and therapeutic system, mental and emotional, self-development, and similar areas. And that is spiritual development. So here we are, being separated by minutes from the most important discovery a human being can make. From discovering the answer to the question, who am I? The question that started the universe. For more information on Satori, please check the link below. And there you can also schedule a session with me to know thyself and accomplish your purpose in this universe. because there is no greater purpose in this universe than the discovery of the I. As Ramana Maharshi said, your own self-realization is the greatest service you can render the world. And more than ever, the knowledge of who you are is needed in this world. Thank you.